Hi, everyone. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live. I got my TV on here. Can y'all see us? Hey, Tune the News. Hi, Carol. Hi, Flapper. How are y'all doing today? So I am joined with the lovely Think Beautiful.
Hey, how are you?
Can y'all hear us? Can you let us know if you can hear us? Because I can't tell if y'all can hear us. Hi, Stephanie. Hey, Carol. Hey, Paula. Welcome to the live. We're going to wait till we have a little bit more people joining us here. So I am so excited to have Think Beautiful. She was gracious enough to join us today because it's a little early where she's located in Austin. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Kathy. A couple more minutes here. Hi, Not Perfect. It's really weird to Think Beautiful because like we can't hear if they can hear. We just hear ourselves. So it kind of feels a little different. Yeah.
In an
Hi,
echo chamber.
everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live. We have the lovely Think Beautiful here today. We have some really exciting things to go over. But before we get started today, I just wanted to have everyone please send a prayer to everyone here who is in Texas. We've been going through some very catastrophic floods in my neck of the woods. Literally 30 minutes from me where I used to live in Georgetown, the San Gabriel River is flooded. Apartments have been evacuated. We've had 45 people die. Several people are missing. We live in central Texas, so it was not expected because we don't live near the coast to have this kind of flood happen. And over in Kerrville, Texas, the Guadalupe River overflowed as well. So we're having extreme flooding in a time that we're not normally used to having it. So if y'all can just send a prayer to everyone in Texas, I would greatly appreciate it. It's devastating, devastating news. Hi, Kevin. So anyway, so I wanted to welcome everyone to the Sunday morning live. Thank you, Stephanie. We have the lovely Think Beautiful here. And if you don't know who she is the one who uncovered Meghan Markle's secret tea supplier. She is the one who discovered the metadata, not the Daily Mail. It was Think Beautiful. So welcome to the show, Think Beautiful. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting and such a nice intro there. Thank you so much. Not the
You're
Daily Mail. I love it.
So you're in Australia, correct?
Yeah, I am. I am. It is 1 a.m. So,
Oh my God.
I'm enjoying my early morning.
You're such a trooper. Thank you so much for being here. So, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and how did you get into this Harry and Meghan debacle? How did you get involved with reporting on the royals?
Well, I started out on YouTube last October, so it was a little bit by accident, but I'd been watching so many people in the Megxit community, and it just got to the point where I thought, I think I know enough about this now. Um, my mum's side of the family are all from the UK, so I've got that kind of connection with the UK and the monarchy, and I've always been very passionate about it. So, yeah, it just kind of all came together in October last year. And yeah, and just over time, I've become a bit more serious about it. And here I am today. So, yeah, it's been a pretty quick ride, to be honest.
Yeah, because I was about to say, to be honest with you, I think Stephen Magnus, this one of our subscribers who always send us some wonderful information, he was like, "You need to check out this channel," and I gave you a shout out a couple months ago. I was like, "Oh, she's
You
fantastic!"
did.
Yeah,
You
I
did.
was
I
like,
think
"She's
you were the first
fantastic."
one, actually. So thank you so
Yay!
much.
So we do. Yeah, so thanks, Stephen Magnus, and I checked her out, and I thought, "Wow, she's fantastic." Because I feel like there's always new people popping up, and so when I
Yeah.
see your channel, I was like, "She's great." And then, of
Oh,
course,
thank
the
you.
story came out about the metadata, and we'll get into that in a moment. But are you a royal fan? Are you a royalist?
Oh, massively, massively. And I don't have friends that are really into this. The really funny thing is, like, I would never talk about Meghan Markle with any of my friends. Like, this is my outlet for that. My friends couldn't care less. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it would just be such a boring conversation. So this is my way of getting it out. I've found my people. I can actually express my opinions on the topic. So yeah, just growing up with my family, listening to the Queen's speech and Diana and all of that, like, it's been such a big part of my life, but no one to really share it with, I guess. So yeah, this is my way of doing that now.
Yeah, same for me. I'm a girl from a small town in Texas, and I fell in love with Princess Diana. I woke up one morning, a Saturday morning or whatever it was, and I wanted to watch cartoons, and there was this wedding. And to me, she was like a fairy tale princess come to life
Yeah.
with the carriage and the veil. I was transfixed, and my mom will tell you that I was obsessed. We go to the grocery
Mhm.
store. If she was on the cover of a magazine, which she was on every magazine, she would have to buy it for me. So she hated taking me to the store because I would throw a fit unless I got my fix. Because now we have the internet, but back in the day, you had the tabloids, right? This is why I always find it hilarious when Meghan Markle was like, "We don't have tabloids." I'm like,
Mm.
I grew up on them. Okay. I literally grew up on them. And then I moved over to Hello Magazine, which was real fancy. So where you live, are people just not into the royals? They don't care. They don't really talk about it.
Well, speaking of Princess Diana, when she was around, she honestly, in Australia, she was on the cover of, we have two, or we used to have two main magazines, New Idea and Woman's Day. Shout out to anyone who's listening from Australia that knows what I'm talking about. But they were always featuring her. Pretty much from what I remember, she was always on the cover of one of those every single week. So Princess Diana did so much for the monarchy, particularly in Australia, from my perspective. So I just, yeah, I grew up watching her, and I guess that's how it all came about. And I'm about the same age as, Prince William and Meghan, to be honest. So I kind of grew up with the boys as they grew up. So I felt very connected to it. And when Princess Diana died, it was huge here as well. She really was an international star, really.
Yeah, I think she put royalty on the map, at least for me in America, because I was a
For
little girl
sure.
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so I've been a royalist for a long time, and I kind of fell into it myself. So you just decided one day in October that you wanted to give it a go and try to make videos?
Uh, I don't remember the exact moment, but I think it took me a while to get it all set up. And then my first video is actually kind of funny. What triggered me to do a video was Prince Harry. Do you remember? He was voted like one of the sexiest men or something, like late last year.
Yes.
And I saw that article, and it tipped me tipped me over the edge. I was just looking at that like, this is ridiculous. Okay, I've got to do a video, and it got like 200 views or something ridiculous, nothing. But I just had to get that out. So yeah, that was the trigger. And then after that, I really just started focusing on Meghan.
Uh-huh.
And her plagiarism was my first point of call. That turned into like 3 episodes because that's all she really ever does. So I had plenty of material. Um, but yeah, and my second video on her plagiarism actually did really well. So randomly, I got like 11,000 views, like just my little channel with probably like 3 subscribers. So I was thinking, okay, there's something here. I can do this.
Yeah, your views are great because let me tell you, when I first started, if I got 100 views, I was like, wow, But my foray into it was accidentally on TikTok. I
Oh,
started
wow.
literally the day of the Oprah Winfrey interview. I went on TikTok, and that was back in the day when you could only do 60-second clips. So I was like
Okay.
part one to infinity. Like people just couldn't get enough of it because I was one of the only people. This is in March of 2021, guys. This was 4.5 years ago. Now it's popular to do it. It was not
Yes.
popular to do it back then. And I came out and said, why Meghan Markle used the race card? Why she trapped Harry? And people, I had like almost one of them has 4 million views, 500,000 views, 300,000 views. We got
Wow.
so much hate, and it was overnight. I got 30,000 people like overnight, but it was so much. I didn't expect to get that kind of audience.
Wow.
It was an
No,
accident.
People are so triggered by her, and for so many different reasons. People have their own opinions and everyone's kind of slightly different, but she seems to trigger people in such an unusual way, unlike anything I've ever seen.
Right. So you went into the metadata, and I have to ask you because I used to build websites. And so I look at the
Okay.
code, and so I was kind of wondering what made you decide to look at the metadata on her website? What made you investigate the T? Let's get into that. What made you think that there was something here?
Well, there's a few different things. So first of all, speaking of being triggered, I was triggered from watching her on the Emma Grede podcast. That was the first thing, because that was just all these fresh lies, and I'm so over it. I think everyone is. So that pissed me off. Can I say that? It pissed me off. Um, the next thing was when she was talking about, okay, so I'm going to share my metrics, and she shared nothing, like literally nothing. So those two things made me want to investigate a little bit more about her brand. And I've done some deep dives on As Ever in the past and more about her trademark and things like that. But I really wanted to find the inventory quantities. That's really what I was looking for, or at least something that would give me an idea of what they might be. And then my plan was to put together a video that would say, look, based on the information I can kind of gather, I could probably assume it would be this, and this would be the revenue, and her costs might look like this. And I was going to do a bit of a rundown on what the P&L might look like. But I ended up going through, lines and lines of data, and just accidentally found this, to be honest. And when I first saw it, I took the screenshot, but I put it aside because I was still interested in looking for what I actually wanted. And then it wasn't until maybe half an hour later that I realized, actually, I think this is something. I can go with this. What am I doing? Go with this. So yeah, so my video completely changed, and it was just about, hey, by the way, she's basically drop shipping, which is not a big deal, but it was the price comparison, the fact that I could find quite easily a comparative product, and you could clearly see the retail markup, and it was, 3 times, and you get 66% less, and that just blew me away. So I felt like that needed to be told.
Well, that was a great discovery because I used to build websites, and so I never even thought about it to look at the code. And I was like, oh my God. So when you did it, I was like, she is brilliant, literally. And I have to tell y'all, let me go back to that other screen. But that is really shoddy web work. Okay. So I'm like, whoever built her website, you girl, you in danger. Okay. Because you were so lazy. You didn't change over the metadata. You just copied and pasted. So they obviously didn't think anyone was going to look, right? Obviously, they didn't think anyone was going to investigate. And let's be honest, everything with her business acumen, her whole business process has been a complete F up. For someone who has her money, her connections, the fact that she could literally invest $1 million and have the best in the business to be such an F up. It's astounding. It's like a business
Completely.
class on how not to run a business. And the fact that you, who doesn't even do websites, can go into her metadata and find out her distributor. That is insane.
I mean, it's pretty ridiculous on their part. If Meghan Markle has taught me one thing, honestly, it is that you can have all the money in the world. Well, not that she's that rich, okay, but you know what I mean. She's got resources. She's certainly got contacts. Just because you've got all of that doesn't mean you will succeed, because I always thought that was the case. I always thought any celebrity can just shove their name on anything and it's like an instant paycheck. But Meghan Markle has showed me quite clearly that is not the case. You can still make mistakes. It's actually not that easy. You actually have to know what you're doing. And she just doesn't. And it's hilarious, to be honest.
A Royal Australian says, I love Michelle's Texan accent. Thank you. I don't think I have much of an accent, but I guess people say that I do. I love your accent, actually. I love the Australian accent, but thank you. I think it's funny how you probably don't think you have an accent either,
No,
right?
Not at all. Not at all. But yes, I love your accent as well, Michelle.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. My vid says, great sleuthing job. Think beautiful. Yeah, it was an absolute gold mine. And of course, you're going to find out also Think Beautiful, and you have this happen to you. The mainstream media and the tabloids are starting to look for YouTubers, and they literally stole your content and didn't give you credit. The day
Yeah.
you
I
literally wrote a story on it. And I was so mad they did not call you out.
But Michelle, that's not the first time, to be honest.
Yeah,
Something else happened to me earlier on. Yeah. But anyway, maybe I'll get to that. But basically all the YouTubers really got behind me. So I was like, the mainstream media, I probably don't really care, to be honest. I mean, I probably don't even want that level of exposure. Do I want to say that? I don't want
right.
my name out there in the mainstream media. I think I'm fine that everyone who matters to me, let's say, they know, and everyone's been so respectful about it, and I really appreciate that. And that's my big learning from this is, give credit where credit is due. This is a team environment. We need to work together. We all have the same goal. So that's been such a lovely thing. So mainstream media, whatever, that's all good.
Right? Kevin Poole. Hi, Kevin. He says he's my number one fan in the UK. Good morning. I hope you're feeling better. He says, I love both of your accents. Okay, so we have an Australian Texan and a British. Walk into a bar. Exactly. And also Dan Wooten had your back. He called you out. A lot of people were giving you credit. I know you were on Steph the Altar Nerd. So I was so happy that you got the credit because we all do so much work,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And when they take it for them, which it's a compliment, but it's like, at least give me a shout out, right? But believe me, I know how you feel about attention because one of my posts that I did on Twitter about my refund process, and by the way, y'all, I have an update. I got 255,000 views, and I'm like, oh, and a couple of people have covered it, which is flattering, but it is scary. It is a little
Yeah,
scary because then people start staring at y'all. So
yeah.
I have a very quick update. If you guys know, I purchased the apricot spread on Meghan Markle's website as a business experiment because I wanted to test her business process because I do have a business background, and I thought it would be a great case study to do it in real time. And let me tell you, she didn't disappoint. So I purchased her apricot spread on June 20th. They took 22.74, and 10 days later, I got the Dear John letter telling us that they oversold the apricot spread and that they would be issuing us a refund as well as a free apricot spread in the future. So when I got my receipt for the refund, unfortunately, I did not make it into a PDF. I apologize. It showed that they were going to give me $15.16 as a refund. So let me see if I can go to Twitter here, and I could try to show y'all. So they were going to give me $15.16. So they were basically keeping my shipping. So then I went to Twitter and I made a huge post, and it got a lot of attention. And that is when 2 days later, I got an email from As Ever. And they said they are now going to be refunding me the $7.58 for the shipping. Now, the thing that's really interesting is that the product was $14, the shipping was $7, right? Then they add in the $1.74, so it came to $22.74, but they only initially were going to refund me the $15.16. Then they recharged me $7 plus tax. So they taxed the shipping as a separate charge, $7.58. Then I got an authorized notice in my bank that Snow Commerce is now going to send a separate refund for $7.58. And that came direct from Snow Commerce. The first refund was from PayPal. So I should be getting this supposedly on July 8th. But I think they only gave it to me because it caused a lot of commotion. The way they handled the whole refund process was bizarre. I've never seen people refund things separately. Have you ever seen that?
No. So are you saying that you're getting your full refund, but you don't think other people are?
Well, I'm not sure. So I am in talks with another lady who has been doing some investigative research about the first run that she did. People they had orders. They paid for it, and then Snow Commerce was like, I'm sorry, your order doesn't exist. And they never
Wow.
got their refund because their order didn't exist and they didn't get their product. So I am in conversation with her because we never found out, were the people actually refunded and did they get the free honey that they were promised? So for me, so far, the fact that Meghan Markle partnered with Snow Commerce, who has a one Better Business Bureau rating, it's shocking that she would put her business in the hands of this company, right? And they're known to sell products that don't exist. They are known to oversell. They have a one. They have ripped people off for years. The fact they're still in business is shocking. So the fact that she put her whole business with Snow Commerce is like, okay, well, it's happening again. Everything that they're known for, they're literally doing. So I'm going to talk with this other lady and see if we can compare notes, because we don't know if people got the honey and we don't know if they got their refunds. Again, there's a lot of people who had missing orders that supposedly didn't exist, even though their money was taken and they got a confirmation. So that is why I wanted to do my order, to do a case study so people could actually see if I'm going to get a refund, right? And then will I get the free product? Because you can't promise something and then not deliver it. And the fact that she were sold and I had a confirmation and it took them 10 days to tell me they were sold, I've never heard of that.
I mean, and the poor people that don't have a voice, that don't have an outlet to be able to get their message out, they're not going to get their refunds. That's ridiculous. This is going to end in some kind of legal claim, surely. I mean, I can't see how this is not.
Right. And Tam Fitz says, we know she's using a factory. Why she can't just order more? Exactly. So according to Meghan's inside sources, they're saying it's about quality over quantity, that she wants to take her time to make sure it's done right. I'm like, well, you took people's money. And again, I built websites, e-commerce websites. The fact that you take someone's money, you should account for the inventory. You subtract it from your available inventory. So there should not be any oversold once the purchase goes through. And 10 days later, you oversold. I don't know how that happens. That to me is insane. And now we have the whole wine debacle, which I find to be extremely weird. I don't understand that. So what is your take on her wine?
Do you mean the date, the launch date? What do you exactly mean? The whole thing is a debacle.
It is. So I'm trying to get this picture up here. I'm sorry. It's not.
I would definitely say oh my God. I can't look at that. I would definitely say that I was shocked by the date. I'm shocked, but I'm not surprised. That's a saying?
Yeah.
Because it suits everything we know about her. And then, on top of the shirt with, copying the shirt that Princess Catherine just wore as well, I really feel like she is going hard this year. She just has nothing to lose. She's coming across incredibly desperate beyond anything we have seen. So I can't imagine how Prince William is feeling about the wine. I mean, I don't know how Harry's feeling, but I just think he's like switched off. I just think he's almost checked out. He can't deal with this anymore. It's too much. Or maybe he's on board with it. I don't know. Who knows? But it's offensive. It was beyond offensive, and it was beyond tone deaf, because she's not tone deaf. She knows exactly what she's doing. She knows the date. So I felt sick about it, actually, when I first heard about it. I actually felt almost nauseous, because there's no morals there. It's way below the belt.
Right. And someone else pointed this out, I think it was Taz, that she literally hijacked Princess Diana's birthday So from now on, July 1st won't be Diana's birthday. It will be Meghan Markle's special day with H and the day that she launched her wine. I'm like, you literally hijacked his mother's birthday, right?
It's just
And it's so
disgusting.
insensitive to do that, especially for the 4th of July weekend in America. A lot of people, drunk drivers, his mother, unfortunately was unalived. She was in the car with a drunk driver, and then you release a rosé. To me, it was just very, very insensitive, the whole thing. Now, I think the wine is being distributed by another company, by a winery. I think they're the ones who are going to be shipping it out. So I am very curious to see how that distribution is going to go. Hopefully better than Snow Commerce. I don't know if she's using Snow Commerce at all for the wine because it looks like it might be coming from the winery. But the fact that she's forcing people to buy 3 bottles of wine, I was astounded that she sold out. I was like, there's no way
Yeah.
she's not going to sell out. And when she sold out in 45 minutes, I'm like, that's a scam. I'm sorry. People aren't shelling out $300 for 12 bottles of wine that they've never tasted.
I
Are you
mean, what
kidding me?
for? I mean, they must be selling it on eBay. I'm going to be looking at eBay to see when this starts landing on that site because honestly, if you bought 12, if you were ridiculous enough to buy 12, wouldn't you just try hock a few couple bottles on eBay?
People were saying
Surely.
that, but I think on
Yeah.
eBay you can't. I don't know if you can sell alcohol because I think people
Oh,
that's
okay.
a great thing to do because they put her jam on
Mm,
eBay, which I found hysterical. I'm like, oh, I guess that's where my jam went. Someone got it and it's on eBay. I think it was
yeah.
like 80. Did anyone pay $80 or $90 for that? That is insane. Retired said July 1st is Canada Day. Don't care about her shenanigans on that date. Absolutely.
Mhm,
Absolutely.
mhm.
Um, Kelly Burner says leftover stock limited run. Yeah, it's weird because it's a 2023. Was it a Napa Valley rosé? It's a
Yeah.
kind of a weird thing. So to me, I'm just wondering if they just had some leftover stock and they just told Megan, "Hey, you can have this rosé blend."
Well,
So
from what I understand, 2023 was not a good vintage. I think it was quite a late season. So maybe it just wasn't something that was selling that well. So maybe she got a good price for it. That's my guess.
right? Kelly Burner says Costco also has wine bottled by Cundy Winery. Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
Um, let's see here what people are saying. Just micro stock. Exactly. In Napa Valley. Yes, exactly. Since Princess Diana died at the hands of a drunk driver. Absolutely. It's just very, very insensitive. So then we have this story, of course, that came out about the whole, it's, Wimbledon week. And this is the same shirt that Meghan wore when she went with Catherine to Wimbledon. And I find it funny that on the 4th of July, she wears the same shirt. Do you think she's trying to take a dig there? I think you did a video on that. What's your take on
Yeah. Look, Meghan Markle always uses fashion to make her point. She did even mention that in the Emma Grede podcast. She made a point of saying that fashion can speak volumes. So she's just told us basically, sometimes Megan just tells us exactly what's going on with her. So she's doing it again for sure. And as soon as I saw it, I knew it. It's obvious. It's not a coincidence. And again, so below the belt, we're talking about someone who has been through it and who is talking about her health. I mean, honestly, no one else noticed what Catherine was wearing. We were listening to what she was saying. We were looking at her face. We were making sure she was okay. How is she holding herself together in this conversation? The last thing people were thinking was, what is she wearing? Where is that shirt from? It's so ridiculous. And so, because of this, again, this triggered me. Maybe Megan just triggers me constantly. But I then did another video. I was like, okay, Megan, you want to remind us about Wimbledon? Let's have a look at all your ridiculousness at Wimbledon over the last few years. Let's have a look at your outfit, your pants, your shirt collar was all the way up. It was ridiculous. So, if that's how you want to play this, well, let's just remind everyone of all the shenanigans that you partook in at Wimbledon.
Yeah,
It's just ridiculous. It's
I know.
just, yeah. There's no boundaries. The gloves are off, is what I've been saying. The gloves are completely off. She's just
Yeah,
provoking.
she is provoking. Mr. Pitt says an internet search shows Megan's 2023 Napa Valley Rosé is a collaboration with Fairwinds Estate, Calista-based winery known for various celebrity and partnership releases. Yeah, so
Yeah.
she's claiming that basically she made a bespoke wine that they did a special blend, and she's personally tasting all of the grapes and she's making it herself. I don't know if I believe that. I mean, again, this is 2023 blend that she's using. I don't think she's been working on it for 2 years. I just find it odd. But again, we know she's a private label princess. Everything she does, she just pretty much slaps her label on it, right? So there's nothing original about this woman at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. And if it wasn't for, other people around her, she just wouldn't even have a personality. Everything is borrowed or stolen from someone else. There's nothing that is just Meghan. It's always from someone else.
Mm-hmm. Missy says, I feel like Diana and Elizabeth's legacies are being destroyed. Absolutely. I'm a huge Princess Diana fan. She was my foray into the love of royals. But I
Mhm.
have to be honest with you. I mean, I love her, but I get tired now because Harry has walked around dining out on the Diana card, and the fact that he's aligned his wife to his mother, it sickens me. I'm just like, oh, get her away. And the Sussex Squad, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they make these really weird AI images of like Diana hugging Meghan, or like Harry and Meghan, and then Diana's looking over them like an angel. It's like,
Oh my
just think,
gosh.
it's like they forget William is her son too. But they
That's
claim her. They
mm,
claim her. She's ours. She's ours. She's on our side. And you guys get Charles. Charles wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't a bad guy. But they like to villainize Charles and kind of put Diana up on a pedestal and claim Diana for Harry and Meghan, right? Which is so
yeah.
kind. And I think it's hilarious because William looks exactly like Diana. He has a lot
Yes.
of qualities, right? Harry doesn't look
Yes.
like his brother at all.
No.
So yes,
Who
Carol.
who who does he look like, to be honest? I mean, that's another show.
I know, I know. Well, he's got the Spencer ginger hair. He actually looked like his grandfather, Prince Philip. When Prince Philip was younger, they do have a lot of similarities when they were wearing beards. He does tend to
Okay.
look a little bit like Prince Philip. Family dynamics or family DNA can be a tricky thing. In my family, all three of us kids have different hair colors, different eye colors, but we have the same parents, but we all picked up
Mm.
different traits. So with
Yeah, sure.
William and Harry kind of took the red hair from the Spencer side of the family because I believe redheads were on Diana's side. But I think when he was a little older and Philip was younger, they kind of showed a picture where you could see a little bit of resemblance there. But yeah, I know a lot of people want to say he looks like James Hewitt.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
there's someone else as well. There's a couple. There's a couple
yeah,
going around, a couple of theories going around.
exactly. Well, yeah, I can't remember what the name of the guy was that people were talking about.
Maybe
Uh,
it's Pembroke. Is it Pembroke?
Maybe.
Maybe
I
someone
think
in the
so.
chat
Yeah,
can
I heard
remind us.
something about that because the timing with James Hewitt was actually after Harry was born. So a lot of people were leaning toward the Pembroke. Yes. That very well could be. Okay, so this person said, Wildcat Wilma says, has anyone seen the recent video Megan did yesterday that she used poisonous flowers over her fruit plate? Like when she was picking mint, was that the poisonous flowers that you guys are talking about? I don't know. Did you see that?
Was that the 4th of July one? She had some
I think
flowers on the
so.
on
I
the fruit
think
plate. I
so.
mean, what was the fruit plate? What was that? I mean, this woman cannot cook. She cannot cook anything she's ever done. I mean, she cooked lettuce on some morning show years ago. Whenever she's been on any kind of I don't know, like little skit or something, she's cooked toast. Then she made a smoothie. I mean, and now she's got fruit. She's not a chef. She doesn't know how to cook. Why would Netflix give her a cooking show? It's so ridiculous. Clearly, she's not any good in the kitchen. Look at this. Someone pointed out as well, why would you put bread with watermelon? It's going to make it all soggy. She's got her ridiculous coulis or spread or whatever that is. No one's dipping stuff into that. She's the only one who would be doing that.
And
Yeah,
also,
I don't know who
it's
that's
a
for.
lot of food, and it's a very expensive amount of food, right?
She's there by herself. It's her and her friend anyway. So I don't know who else was there.
Right. So, yeah, so to me, that was like a $400 platter of food. And I was just like, God, that's so expensive to make a patisserie board or whatever it's called for her and her friend. It was really showy. A lot of people were saying that she like does this weird thing with her tongue. She sticks her tongue out when she eats. And I'm just like, oh
She
God.
does. She's gross.
That
Yeah.
got me there. Yeah. But to
Yeah.
me, I was just looking at this plate and it was pretty, but I was like, look at the amount of food. Look how expensive with the brie cheese, vegetables. I mean, $300, $400 max for just a plate of food. Her dancing around like a leprechaun in her kitchen. I just thought it was really
Leprechaun.
weird for the 4th of July. Whatever. But yeah, then she's on her Instagram and she shares all these little, fake stories of people saying that, they bought the wine and they enjoy it, that type of thing. But this is what I thought was hysterical, the fake picking of the apricot. I mean, what is
It
that?
is the worst Instagram account I have ever seen, as ever, the worst. The pictures are so fake, they're static, they are just, I mean, they're all like a year old, aren't they? Didn't she do all these last year, April or something? I'm sure this is 2024 stuff.
Maybe. Kellyanne says, I always thought Harry was a homely, unattractive child.
Oh,
You
geez.
know, I don't know. He's a ginger. I always thought that Prince Philip was extremely good looking when he was younger. So I think Harry, I don't know. I don't know what happened to Harry. It could just be because I don't like him anymore, but he's aged, not to be rude, but he's aged a little bit. And the hair, and he just doesn't look well. I don't know what Meghan has done to him, but he is aged in dog years, like compared to
In
William.
doggy.
But you know what I mean? Like they were making fun of William balding, and I'm sorry, but William has a nice body. He's got a beautiful face. He's got a great family, great personality. There's a major difference if you look at Harry, and it might have to do with more with his personality, and the whining makes a man look so bad,
Of
unattractive.
course.
Somebody a
Of
whiny man.
course. When he opens his mouth and the things he says, it's a complete turn off. It doesn't even matter what he looks like, to be honest. He'll be unattractive just because he's just spouting garbage, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think he's ruined his reputation in the world because all he does is whine about my brother had a bigger
Mhm.
bedroom than me. He had more sausages than me. That's a child. That is such a child's play. But yeah, so I think Harry just doesn't look well, in my opinion, when you compare him to William. Now, William looks like a king. He has king energy. I think it was the Order of the Garter, and they saw William walking behind Charles, and it just looked like he was ready. He has such a statesman aura, king aura about him that I think we're just really ready for William. And I've always said this, and this isn't to be unkind, but it's true. I think that, King Charles is what I call a placeholder king, because if you think about it, he unfortunately has to take the shoes of his mother, who is the longest ruling monarch in history for the UK. Those are some really big shoes to fill. And a lot of people were saying, oh, the monarchy is probably going to end. We don't need a monarchy after Queen Elizabeth. So he had to come in and kind of carry on his mother's way of doing things, like the old tradition. He wasn't going to come in and make waves. He was basically there to carry on the legacy for William. That is my opinion. And we know it's not going to be a very long reign. Hopefully 10 years, right? Maybe more, but it's not going to be anything compared to 70 years of his mother. And then we have William, who is in his 40s, a lot younger, very good looking. A lot of people want him to hand it to William, but he has small kids. But William is the one who I feel is going to be he's going to be the one who's going to come in and modernize the monarchy. He's already talking about he wants to have a royal family with a small r compared to a large R. He might be even giving out duties to people like Zara to take over Ascot, to take over some other things that he doesn't feel they need to manage. And he's even talked about in the future, he may not be the head of the Commonwealth. It could go to another country that could, be the head of state for that. So I think with William, it is going to be much more pared down. And hopefully he's going to come in and kind of clean up the place. You know what I'm saying? Get rid of Harry and Meghan's children's titles. They're not needed, and clean up the website. But Charles is kind of frustrating a lot of people. But I think he's just trying to keep the status quo. Don't you feel like when William comes in, it's going to be like a new sheriff in town?
Oh, it's going to be amazing. But I do like your comment about the placeholder. And, I wouldn't have liked to have said that, a few months ago because, it's a bit controversial, but it is true. It is true because unfortunately, Harry has shown that, if Charles can't manage his own child, then what is he doing as the monarch? And I understand there's been some health issues for sure, but there are other people that can take the reins and that can do extra duties. And I feel like he just wants his time and he's happy to just, take the easy route. Um, but this whole thing with Harry, I think it's going to fall onto William, which I just think is just so unfair. So, so unfair. He should never be put in that position. Let's see what happens. But I just, if by now nothing has happened, Charles has just let it all happen as it has. I don't know that there would be anything that would make him change right now. I think it's going to be over to William for sure.
Right. Wildcat Wilma says the king is the titular head of the Commonwealth. There is an actual elected leader of the Commonwealth that handles day-to-day issues. Exactly. And I think William actually has hinted that in the future, it may not be him. It may not be the monarchy the way that it always has been. And I think that's great if he wants to open it up for others. Teaspoon 59 says, I think Mike 100% will be great in the Invictus. Well, see, that might be a problem because that's Harry's baby, and I don't think Harry's going to step away from that. Harry's not going to step away from Invictus. That would be
No,
very
that's all he's got. That's basically
all he's
all he
got.
has right now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Kevin says Zara would be wonderful as a patron of Ascot. Exactly, because she loves
Yeah.
horses and it would kind of make more sense. I don't think William is really into a lot of the things that they do because, it's a new generation, right? Because let's be honest, the monarchy is run on tradition and protocol. And as we get into a new age, we're into the digital age. I think William wants to focus on bigger projects like homelessness, Earthshot Prize. He has the Duchy of Cornwall. He's got quite a few things on his plate, and he wants to make bigger impacts instead of focusing on all these little things that they have to do. And they have less royals because you have to remember they didn't realize Harry and Meghan weren't going to be there. Andrew isn't there, and we have at least 4 people over the age of 70, 75 as working royals. So in 10 years, it's going to look very different in the UK royal family. So it's going to be much pared down. But I do believe that there's rumors. I would love to see Zara take over some stuff. Even the York girls, Beatrice and Eugenie, they might be coming in as well, which is I have predicted. I've been predicting this for several years. It is necessary. We need young people in the monarchy. There's a huge disparity of ages where the youngest working royals are in their 40s. And then, of course, George is too young. They're still in school. And I'm really hoping that Sophie and Edward's daughter, Lady Louise, she's graduating from college. So in the next couple of years, we could see her, I believe, as a working royal, which I think she would be a great addition.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. Yeah.
Right? Does anyone have any comments or questions? Make sure you leave them on the side If you have anything you would like to ask, think beautiful. Any comments, please leave them below. Not perfect, just British. It says, I think Queen Elizabeth II persuaded the Commonwealth to accept King Charles III as its head, but I don't think it's right of the sitting monarch. But I don't think it's the right of the sitting monarch. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I think with William, it's definitely going to be very interesting to see what their take is. I know that Charles tries to pacify too many people, and he's angered people with some of his stances with the church, with other religions. And he is the head of the Church of England. So it is going to be very interesting to see how William is going to tackle that as well in the future. There's been some discussions that he doesn't really go to church. Nothing against him, but he is the head of the Church of England. And Charles has tried to be welcoming to all, which I can understand. But at the same time, that really has angered a lot of people. So I am fascinated to see how that's going to pan out with William in the future. So
There's going to have to be a lot of changes, I think. So it would be nice to think that they would start to phase in some of those changes when Charles is still around, but I feel like they're going to wait for William.
yeah, I think so. So what's this with Catherine? Like, I'm really concerned, about Catherine, because we don't know, what kind of cancer she had. And it's very clear that she's still not 100%, that she's dealing with the emotional side of her illness. And Charles, too. We don't know what kind of cancer he has. But wasn't there a rumor that it was an incurable cancer? So that worries me a little bit about Charles and Catherine. They're not 100%. And I worry that if something happens to King Charles, Catherine might be forced earlier to this, to being queen, and they have young kids. And that kind of worries me a little bit. What's your take on that?
I mean, I think everyone feels for her 100%. She's completely doing her best. But I think what we've learned is that with both herself and with William, they really understand the importance of family and time with their children. So I think however it falls, they will find a way to manage that balance between, duty and family. I think that's when they'll have to be calling on people like Zara, and Lady Louise, and the York sisters for sure, just to support their own family.
Right. Lady of the Valley says, Lady of, can I talk? Lily of the Valley, nice to see you. King Charles III is definitely a man of the people and very spiritual in his approach as opposed to religious. Okay. Yeah, like I do appreciate the fact that he's trying to be a little bit more modern and more inclusive in his approach. But I also feel like if you are the head of the Church of England, you need to uphold those values as well. So I think there's kind of a common ground, and I'm just very interested to see how that is going to evolve in the future with William, definitely. James Bell says, Charles will pass with the cancer. It most likely not kill him, but it's not going away. Yeah, I think you might be right there. He definitely looks like, I feel like he's aged a lot. In the last 2 years since he took over the crown, he's aged a lot. Have you noticed that his hair went completely white? I think the stress of losing his mother, and then his illness, and then of course Harry is really, really weighed in on King Charles. But I think he's done an excellent job as the Prince of Wales. He did a fantastic job with the Princess Trust Foundation, and I think they're making a Netflix series into that. So I'm really excited. I do like King Charles. I know a lot of people rag on him. I do like him, but I do not believe, he's going to make the big changes that everybody wants. I think that's going to be on William for sure. Let's see. I'm kind of going through the comments. Let's see here, guys. Retire said Catherine should only do balcony scenes if she's queen while fighting cancer. People would be thrilled with Zara or any of Edward's family for visits. They won't want her to risk her health. Exactly. 100%.
I think we've been very lucky as well with Princess Catherine sharing so much with us about her health. I always feel so privileged when she gives an update. We don't deserve it almost. You know, she doesn't need to do anything. So everyone has just fallen in love with her all over again. So regardless of what happens, I think majority of people will be very understanding, and there won't be that public pressure on her just because we understand what she's been going through now. She's been telling us firsthand.
Right. Lily of the Valley says one can never be certain about cancer. It can take up to 5 years remaining cancer free to proclaim the disease is gone. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. I'm trying to read at the same time, y'all. My glasses. Okay. Dementor Star 1966 says, I think Megsy is extremely underdiagnosed, mentally ill. Definitely, yep. Arrested Development, age 11, just soap days. I believe that her and Harry are the same age, 11. He's still the boy walking behind his mother's casket, unfortunately. I don't think he has really developed past that age. And it's really sad. I mean, he's acting like a petulant child. So
Constantly.
that's right.
Constantly.
So I have a feeling there could be Spare 2 coming out in the near future. If things don't go well, there's the rumor the royal family is really hoping that they, and I've said this before, they really want them to succeed in Hollywood. They really want them to do well because that way they'll stop talking about the royals. But I kind of don't think they will, because that is the number one thing people want to hear from them is the dirt. They don't care about Harry and Meghan by themselves. They're boring. Look at her cooking show, was a snooze fest. Right? I mean, people just watched it for the train wreck that it was. And they call me Sussex now. Yeah, it's absolutely a joke. Lady Maria says, should be accepted with the public to remove their titles or place in abeyance. Yeah, the whole thing about Lily and Archie, it's weird why they wanted to give their children titles in the first place. It makes no sense. They have no ties at all to the UK, which is very sad. I'm seeing a Mommy Dearest book coming in the future, really, for these two kids.
I honestly, yeah, I feel really bad for Archie, especially. Lily's, you know, still a little bit younger. I think Archie's starting to figure it out, surely. I mean, he must have, you know, family days at school, you know, where you bring your grandfather and all those types of things. I mean, he knows his family is not around. He knows all these aunties and, you know, Auntie Serena. He knows they're not his real aunties, surely. You know, and really those two kids are going to need to stick together. They're the only ones that are going to understand what it has actually been like. But every time we get those little snippets on Instagram and we hear Archie's voice or we hear Lily's voice, it's heartbreaking. You know, the way they interact with Meghan, there's so many layers there. It doesn't seem right. So they're definitely the real victims in all of this. Mm.
I just realized I was muted. But yeah, I'm really interested to hear if there's going to be any mishaps, with her wine. That's still, we still don't know if that's going to be any mistakes like her jam was. But it is true, things are not going well for Harry and Meghan. And so therefore, what do they have left? A couple of burn books and maybe Spare 2.0 and another documentary about the royal family, because they've tried to do things like Polo, her cooking show, and it's just not been a success.
They just
Even
don't
her,
have any ideas. They're not creatives. Just because you are or you have a platform doesn't mean you have good ideas, doesn't mean you're good in that space. It's not easy to come up with ideas. It's not easy to be a creative person, and they just don't have it in them at all.
right, Meghan doesn't have a personality. She never really did. And she just
No.
wants to be famous. Um, Miss VJ says Meghan has a cash flow problem. Before the newly labeled wine can leave the winery, it needs to be paid in full. This is why the wine is sold out, or she has not been able to pay for it up front. Yeah, so remember, Meghan doesn't even have a CEO of her company. She couldn't get a CEO. She could not get investors, so she partnered with Netflix. So Netflix is the one who's, I guess, paying for it. I'm a little confused about their role in this whole thing with her as ever, because it's like they have so much money between Harry and Meghan and Netflix. You got a couple million there. So what's the problem, right? What's the problem with the stock? I'm not understanding why it's so bad. So clearly, Meghan has kind of handed it off to Netflix. They're running the show, and again, they're not. They've done a couple of products for a couple of their shows, and they have that new, a Netflix store where you can go in and buy the items. But what I find interesting is, why is it such a mess? Who is responsible? Is it Snow Commerce? Because if you look at her website, she's kind of setting it up to where Snow Commerce would take the fall because
Yeah.
everything is through them. But where is Netflix in all of this? That's the part I'm still not wrapping my head around, this partnership. I don't know who's doing what. And we all know Megan's going to blame everyone but herself.
I mean,
So,
it seems like Netflix have a good consumer products department, but they're not really, I mean, they're just strategy. So the VP, I think his name is Josh Simon. He's, I guess, the one that Megan's been dealing with for all of her products, who seems to have hooked her up with Republic of Tea,
right.
to get all of that stuff sorted. So strategy wise, they might be great. But when it comes to actually getting the products to the people, all of those logistics, I don't think they've really ever done anything like this. Then on top of that, you've got Meghan with her limited quantities. Clearly, her website can't synchronize itself quickly enough. I did a video as well on her accelerated payment methods, which I think is also a problem when you've got your limited stock. You're paying for items, it's deducting your money before you even get to the cart process. So it's just a recipe for disaster. And yeah, like you said, I don't know exactly who is to blame. You would have to say it's Meghan. At the end of the day, she is the face of the brand. She is the founder. She'll tell you that she is the founder. So, I mean, it's her, and for her to pass off any complaints to Snow Commerce is ridiculous. She's the one who has engaged them, and it's this is all on her. This is ruining her reputation if it wasn't already in tatters.
Right. Wildcat Wilma says Netflix has money, but even they understand her show failed and they don't want to invest more than absolutely necessary. Yeah, so I do believe you are right that they've kind of set her up kind of the same way they set up all their other businesses. They gave her the private label company, the distributors, but something happened with Snow Commerce. I think maybe they are to blame somehow because, again, they do have a history of doing that. So I don't know. Like I said, but again, someone else brought up the point. How hard is it to refill jam in a jar? That was in a factory. They make thousands a day. So she's acting like she's just, what is she personally inspecting all of the apricots to make sure they're the same size before they go into the jar? Like, give me a break. The quality or control, and then promising people a mythical apricot spread in the future. Like I said, I'm going to keep you all posted. I'm supposed to get my second half of my refund. But there were a lot of people out there who never got their original refund, and I don't think they got the honey. If you remember, the new honey was only available for 6 minutes. It was sold out.
Mm-hmm.
So again, everything that she's done so far on her as ever side has been a complete failure. Now the wine, because it is through an actual winery, that might be more successful because she's with real people who actually do this for a living. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious to hear what's going to happen. And I want to see people taste it. I think Brittany from Royal News Networks purchased the wine. I actually thought about it. I was going to buy one bottle, but I was like, $120 for 3 bottles? I don't think so.
Mm,
That was a little steep
no,
for me. $20
no.
maybe, because again, she hadn't refunded me my $22. So I wasn't sure if I was going to buy the rosé, but 3 bottles was a little steep for me to invest. But we'll have to wait and see if Brittany gets her wine and what it tastes like for sure. Some people keep saying it tastes like vinegar and bitter, just like her.
Of course.
Yeah. So you guys, we are now at the hour mark. So if you guys have any last comments or questions for me or Think Beautiful, please leave them in the chat below because she has to go to work soon and it's 1 a.m. in the morning and we don't want to take up all of her time. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them quickly in the chat. Through the Looking Glass said Scott Rouse tested the apricot jam and did not like it. Yes, he is I think he's a body language expert, and somebody has sent him a package of As Ever products as a joke. It was hysterical. He didn't know who it was, and he tested the cookies and the jam, and he's like, it was terrible. He said the only thing that was good was actually like the cookies. Again, how can you mess up cookies? They were out of the box sugar cookies with flour sprinkles. But he said the flour sprinkles smelled like hay. The tea was terrible, and that the apricot spread was disgusting. And his friends sent it to him as a joke, and it was really funny. You'll have to watch that video. And they must have spent a pretty penny because he had quite a few products in there. Linda Anderson said the children's voices are fake. When watching Sesame Street with my gran, it's beautiful. Voice supposedly Lily Bucks is a Sesame Street character. Exact words, I just laughed as ever. Oh, interesting.
I was
Yeah,
actually trying to find that as well. I did quite a few hours trying to find that that voice. I felt the same. It didn't sound right. There was something so off about that. I was more looking towards like old movies. Oh yeah, many Google searches for that. So yeah, if it's Sesame Street, oh my goodness, how funny.
yeah. Flapper calls it bunny food. Yeah, weren't people saying that the sprinkled flowers was like durable food that people buy
It
for
is.
gerbils?
It's exactly the same. But now we know that it's just tea. It's even more of a ripoff, to be honest.
Right. As someone said, reach out to Brittany and see if she will sell a bottle of wine to me. She's stuck with 3 bottles. She might want to get rid of 1 or 2 of them. I just think that whole thing about making people purchase 3 bottles of wine is extremely, I don't know, really weird.
It's pretty rude. I mean, to be honest, the wine probably tastes okay. I mean, I don't think critiquing the wine is really the right angle. I mean, you can do that, but I think it's going to be fine. There's probably worse wines out there, to be really honest.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an easy shot to say, look, it tastes terrible. I mean, unless you're a proper wine connoisseur, it probably
Yeah,
doesn't hold a lot of weight.
yeah, I think you're right because it is coming from a very good winery.
Yeah, it will be
That's
fine. And it's very subjective anyway. If you tell someone that you can taste peach, they'll taste peach. It's a whole nother world. But it's really about the process. It's about, yeah, like you said, trying to sell 3 bottles minimum. I mean, I just find that rude. I just want 1 bottle. What if I was actually a fan? I don't have that kind of money. And how do I know I'm even going to like it? So I just felt like that was really obvious, trying to move stock. And then, I'm sure there'll be issues with quantities somewhere along the line.
right. Linda says, I'll get the exact Sesame Street episode, exact voice and words.
Yeah,
Yeah, please
please.
send it to us if you get, or send it to Think Beautiful if you get it for sure.
Would love to. Want to know which character it is. Maybe it's Abby Cadabby.
Right. Another person thought it was from I Think It's Beautiful was Mrs. Doubtfire. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to look through some comments here, guys. Okay. Heaven on Earth says Meghan thinks Amazon is going to offer her $1 million for her brand. Yeah, well, Justin Bieber's wife sold her makeup line or her skincare line for $1 billion. But this was already a company that had a very proven track record, a very successful company, and they didn't have distribution problems. So Meghan, with her, 3 strikes you're out, selling out in ridiculous amount of time. I don't think a lot of people are impressed. I think a lot of people are looking at her as a gimmick. And the fact that she's had so many problems overselling stock, that's embarrassing for anybody. You know, what I found hilarious, I think beautiful, is when she was on the Emma Grade show or Emma Grida show, and the lady was talking about, you know, sometimes you just make mistakes, you don't get it right. And Meghan literally looked at her like, oh, I feel bad for you that you had a hard
Yeah,
time.
because she
You think
doesn't
you're
make
such
mistakes.
an expert.
Yeah.
Like she sold out in an hour and she's just the queen of entrepreneurship. And when she went to the Time
Mm.
100, I'm like, the audacity of this woman sitting there in the audience acting like everyone needs to be like her. Sell out in an hour. She's the queen, one and done. But it's like, you're a mess. You're a mess. Like people are watching you have to give refunds and you're overselling stock. That does not impress anybody. That makes you look a mess because this is the second time and it took you, what, 2, 3 months to refill your out of stock items. That's not a good look. You're not
And
impressing anybody.
And don't forget, in between all of this, she told us that she was going to take a pause and she wasn't going to release anything until next year. I mean, what was that? She lost her mind for 2 minutes. It went to print and then she did a 180. I didn't understand that. That was as crazy as her suddenly deciding to move across to American Riviera Orchard when her as ever trademark was actually progressing through the steps. She just suddenly changes her mind and does something completely random, and then it doesn't work, and she goes back to what she was doing before.
Right. Her whole business acumen has been a mess. And the whole thing I said is her brand has been built on chaos and confusion. Way to
Yeah.
go. Confuse your customers. Tell people they have an order and then 10 days later say, sorry, we oversold. Like what? So everyone was really happy thinking that we were getting the product just to be told it was oversold. And then take 2 months off in between not to refill, you know, anything on your website and then tell people you're not going to do it till next year and then surprise, we're going to do it now. It just, everything with her is a mess. And I've heard rumors, I haven't confirmed, but I think she's lost more staff. And
Oh,
I think,
she has. I'm going to do a video on that. Yeah, she
okay,
has.
okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
More, more.
yeah.
I'm
So
losing count.
exactly. So you guys, go check out Think Beautiful over here on YouTube. She is amazing. She does great investigative work. Remember, she was the one who did discover the metadata and revealed to everybody the triple markup of the price that Meghan Markle did for her tea that she private labeled. And tell us what you're working on next, what we can expect to see your next video.
I've got a few coming up. I try not to get too far ahead though, because the thing with Megan is she's so active in the space. So you can't actually plan. There's a level of chaos about her, as you've said. So yeah, I switch up all the time. But I've got one coming out about some more of her terrible fan Instagram posts. I mean, these guys are on Instagram and Twitter or X or whatever, trying to post things that they think are great and showing off the as ever apricot spread and all of that. And they're just disgusting. It's not helping anyone, but they're pretty hilarious. So I've got another one of those coming out because everyone seemed to like that. But then again, you're just keeping up with the news. So yeah, losing staff. What else have I got? A few other things on, a few other ideas I've got, but yeah, there's always something with her, so it's never too difficult to come up with a topic. You probably know exactly what I'm talking
There's
about.
too many topics to do, and both of us work, and
Yeah,
it's hard to keep up with the royal news. It really is. It's like a conveyor belt, and you just kind of,
it is.
and sometimes being 2 or 3 days after the story is okay because sometimes people don't get around to it until then anyway. So I will be releasing a video, y'all, sometime tonight talking about the whole debacle with Harry and Meghan and the Queen, because that was such a juicy story about the friend who kind of dropped that information. So I'm going to be working on that for you guys. And of course, whatever else comes down the pike, 100 more stories probably dropped today. But I want to thank lovely, Think Beautiful, who you guys showed up at 1 o'clock in the morning so she could sit here with you guys. I hope y'all
Of
appreciate
course,
that. She's amazing.
of
Go
course.
check out her channel. But everyone, thank you so much for joining us for an early Sunday morning live. And again, if y'all can say a special prayer to all of us here in Texas going through the catastrophic floods. I would greatly appreciate it. We're Texas strong, y'all. We hold up together, but it really is devastating for all of us here. So thank y'all for being here, and we hope to see y'all in the next live coming up next Sunday. Bye, guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye.